Welcome back to Endangered Species Spotlight. This week we are talking about the American burying beetle. This is the American burying beetle. It is a species of carrion beetle that is endemic to North America. So as I just mentioned, it is a carrion beetle. That means that it is part of the cleanup crew that takes care of dead and decomposing animals and stuff. So these carrion beetles, when they find the body of a dead animal or something, they take it and they lay their eggs in it, they eat it, all that, and in doing so, the nutrients from that corpse gets recycled into the environment, and it helps stop the spread of disease and filth and all that. So they are very important to the environment. So these guys' range used to extend throughout the majority of North America, at least in United States, Canada. I'm not fully sure about Mexico, but they used to be very common, but now their range has reduced to almost just 10% of what it used to be, and they're classified as critically endangered. So there's quite a few contributors to the population decline of these beetles, some of which include habitat loss and habitat fragmentation, so there's not a lot of available area for them to actually breed, and if the area that is still available is super far apart, so they can't really get together that easily. Climate change and the use of pesticides also have an effect on these. Climate change is changing the environment, further reducing the breeding area of them, and pesticides are all around bad for these guys. There's also threats to them from the oil industry, so much so that in some states there's been petitions to take them off of the endangered species list so they stop interfering with the oil mining and stuff. Because if these guys are endangered, that means where they live you can't mine for oil, and some states didn't like that. But as far as I'm aware, those petitions were unsuccessful and they're still classified as endangered in those areas. There's also been an overall decline in the population of other animals, and you would think that the deaths of those animals would be beneficial to these guys, but with the overall population of other animals going down so rapidly, that means there's getting to be a lack of usable carrion for these beetles to bury and lay their eggs and eat, so that's also not great. And interestingly, there may have been a correlation, not confirmed, but there's a hypothesis that the extinction of the passenger pigeons in North America also had an unintended effect on these guys, due to the fact that there used to be so many passenger pigeons that there would be ample pigeon carcasses for these guys to bury into, but when all the passenger pigeons went extinct, they were no longer available for these guys to use, so that was a major habitat and food source loss for them. Fortunately, there are a number of conservation efforts going on for these guys. There's lots of captive breeding, so they would breed these beetles and either keep the offspring in captivity to breed more or release them out into the environment, which seems to be pretty successful so far. Bugs are pretty good at breeding. They tend to have a pretty short generation time, so often it's pretty easy to do captive breeding with insects if they do well in captivity. Not all insects do, but it seems that these guys have had some success in captive breeding, which is great. So, pretty interesting beetle. If you live around the eastern side of Canada and the United States and you see one of these guys, please make sure not to harm it, just leave it alone, and potentially report it to your local conservation or ecology centers so they have that data to use.